Scott out the door, and Scott tried to shut the door, and Schmitz put the gun in between the door and the door jamb to hold the door open. Then Scott grabbed a chair and he went into the kitchen. He was backing away. Then Schmitz shot him, and Scott stood there for a moment, put his hands to his chest, and then he started to fall, went down to his knees, and Schmitz shot him again. Scott knew that he was going to die. It was a terrible thing to know that somebody's coming after you with a gun and there's no way out.
Now, which of these ways would you choose to reveal your secret crush on someone? A, would you write that person a letter? B, would you tell the person in private in case he rejects you? Or C, would you tell that person that you're gay and you hope he is on national television? To meet Donna and Scott. Donna has been helping Scott pursue his secret crush on John. John's backstage. He can't hear us. Tell me about the first time you met him. Where was he?
Basically, well, he was under a car working on her brake line.
Yeah. And that was your first time? What was your first impression?
Well, I only saw the lower half of him, so you can imagine.
Do you think? Okay, you think about him, you have fantasies about him?
A couple, yeah.
Yeah, you had when he was under the car, you had a fantasy of him.
Yeah, something to do with like brake oil, line snapping.
I think Scott on the show not with an intention of cursing anybody. I think Scott went on the show thinking this was going to be a spectacular way that he could show somebody that he cares about them. Sort of like, I don't know if in your days of being single, there's a girl you really like, you want to try to come up with something really neat to impress her.
Tell us about, you have another one that involved, you were in a hammock or something? Tell us about that fantasy.
I think she pushed him into things that he didn't really want to do. Like, Scott was very nervous.
Tell us about that fantasy.
Yeah, actually.
Jenny Jones told them to make it look good for the audience or she would be very mad. And they offered Scott to give him flowers and Scott wouldn't do it. Wanted Scott to kiss John, Scott wouldn't do it.
I got a pretty big hammock in my yard and I thought about tying him up to my hammock.
And?
Well, it entails like whipped cream and champagne, stuff like that.
Now, John, he knows you're gay, right?
Yeah.
Do you know that he is?
No.
Anything's possible.
You're living in the 1990s. It isn't hard to offer somebody, a young, impressionable person, the opportunity to appear on national television, to express a secret crush, something that he doesn't feel necessarily bad about. He doesn't understand the dangers.
What is it that's so exciting about him to you?
He's got a cute little hard body. You know, when you just want to come put in your curio cabinet, you know, dust him off once in a while.
You want to physically pick him up?
Oh, he's just a tiny little cute thing. He's gorgeous.
Well, all right, let's see if he really is. Get the headphones off of John and let's have John come out here and see who has the crush on him. Here's John. Did you think Donna had the crush on you?
Did I? No, we're good friends.
Well, guess what? It's Scott that has the crush on you.
You lied to me.
I mean, he's confronted with this horrible situation on national television. You can see when you watch him, his hands go to his face in humiliation and embarrassment. And Jenny Jones exploits that and keeps twisting the knife and twisting the knife.
Before we talk, take a look at, we'll show a little playback of what Scott said about you, John. Take a look at that monitor
right
down
here?
there.
Well, it entails like whipped cream and champagne, stuff like that.
Scott was pretty open about, he's been fantasizing about you since he saw you under that car for the first time. He had an under the car fantasy and he had a hammock fantasy he's been telling us about. Did you have any idea that he liked you this much?
No, I did not.
Can you tell us what your status is? Are you involved with anybody, or?
No, but I am definitely heterosexual, I guess you could say.
He'd been engaged to a woman for 3 or 4 years, and they had broken up several months earlier. He thought probably it was she, and if not the ex-girlfriend, someone else he had met at work with whom he thought there was a spark between the two. And so he was fantasizing. He gets on this airplane. Before even he gets on the airplane, he goes out and he buys a suit of clothes, a sport jacket, and a pair of slacks, and a new shirt, and a new tie, and I think even new shoes. And he gets himself all spruced up because he is now convincing himself that this is going to be the turnaround event in his life. This time, if it is his old girlfriend, he tells everybody at work. This time, he's going to marry her.
Donna lives upstairs from me. And Scott was a guy, one night I pulled in, she was looking at her brakes, and I was looking at the brakes too, and Scott pulls in behind me and goes, well, your car's pretty funny, because I drew this peace sign in the back of my car, and it's, it says Peace Man on it, and then Scott says, you look like a hippie in your car, and then you get out of your car, and then he told Donna that I was a good-looking guy, and Donna told me, and I said, well, it's flattering, but...
It's flattering, but you're not interested. There's no way. There's no way, right?
No, I'm
well, at least you got it out. Are you very disappointed?
You can see her on the tape draining every last drop she can get out of it. She says to Jonathan, after he sees it's Donna Riley there sitting with Scott Amedure, and he kisses Donna Riley, and Scott Amedure, obviously set up for this, tries to embrace him, and he pulls away and avoids the embrace, sits down in the only empty seat next to Scott Amedure, and as the audience hubbub kind of dies down, Jenny Jones from out in the audience says, so...
Did you think Donna had the crush on you?
Did I? No, we're good friends.
He gets halfway through the sentence and she says, well, guess what?
Guess what? It's Scott that has the crush on you.
You lied to me.
His first reaction is to turn to Scott and to Donna and say,
you lied to me.
The bomb starts ticking. At the moment, Jenny Jones exposes with a big flourish and a huge audience reaction that it's in fact Scott Amedure who has the secret crush on Jonathan, not Donna Riley. They leave the show, and Jonathan's still trying to act the gentleman, agrees to drive them home from the airport. The following morning, after staying up all the night before, drinking with friends from work, he goes home and he sees a note written by Scott that if you really want to get it off, I'm the only one who has the right tool. Jonathan sees this, and I think the bomb is really going off at that point.
You swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
The show that John appeared on March 6, 1995 was Ambush Television?
No.
You knew on March 5, 1995 that John's secret admirer was not going to be a woman, didn't you?
Yes.
When he was asking who it was, and they said, well, we can't even tell you, it could be a man or it could be a woman, he said, well, then forget it, I'm not interested. If it's a man, I'm not interested. And he said it often enough that finally one of them said, well, don't worry, don't worry. We can't tell you who it is, but we've talked to her, and everything's going to be fine. You'll be fine. You're going to have a good time. We have the production notes, and it shows very clearly that he's not at all interested. He wasn't interested in anything unusual. It wasn't just he didn't want to go on a show with a man having a secret. He didn't want anything unusual.
I told him it could be a man or a woman. It was his choice to come on.
But you knew it was a man, didn't you?
Yes.
So saying it could be a man or it could be a woman was a lie, wasn't it?
I don't think so. I told him it could be a man or a woman.
Could it have been a woman?
No.
But you told John it could have been a woman, right?
Yes.
Isn't that a lie? Told him something that it couldn't have been.
Sure.
So they finessed him. They finessed a very unsophisticated, regular kind of guy.
I've been in every green room I can think of. I've never seen a bottle of vodka in there. What the heck was Jenny Jones' show plying Scott Amedure with vodka for? I'll tell you, to reduce the inhibitions and to make it even more sensational.
During the time you talked with Scott Amedure at the hotel on March 6, 1995, isn't it true that you told him if he was nervous to have a few drinks before he came on the show?
Not at all.
You never discussed that with him?
No.
As a matter of fact, when he came into the room, he had a beer in his hand.
Did you talk with Donna Riley that morning?
Once she was in the green room.
Did you talk with Donna Riley that morning at the hotel or around the hotel?
No.
With Donna Riley or Scott Amedure on the telephone from someplace to the hotel?
I don't remember.
And is it your testimony here on your oath that you had no conversation with them about drinking a few drinks in the morning if they were nervous?
That is correct.
Ron, the producer, had told us the evening before, because he saw that we were nervous, and he said, oh, just, you know, have a couple drinks and loosen up, you know, and you guys will be okay. And so that's what we did. We went to the bar.
And were the drinks free?
No, we had a tab there. They gave you so much money.
The show gave you so much money?
On the hotel tab, yeah. It was at the hotel bar.
This is a perfect example of a talk show resulting in death. There is absolutely nothing surprising about what happened in this entire case. Nothing surprising to me.
And even though you're not a psychologist or psychiatrist, you realize that John was suffering some type of humiliation and embarrassment, correct?
Absolutely not.
When John was looking over at Mr. Amedure and Miss Riley and said, "You lied to me," you'd recognize that as a real concern on the part of one of your guests, that he was suffering some type of embarrassment or concern, wouldn't you?
Not in that context, no.
What do you mean by not in that context? Could you describe or explain?
Well, the show was a lighthearted show. No one seemed upset in that segment. And when he said that, what I got from that was that he had asked them, you know, was it you, John? Was it you, Scott? And Scott probably said no, and that's what that meant to me. There was nothing negative in that at all to me.
You might be able to do what they did to Jonathan Schmitz. You might be able to do it to 100 people in a row, and maybe only one or two or three would react the same way. Maybe only one or two or three would have the same demons inside when they're plucked out of obscurity and thrust unwanted into the national spotlight, humiliated publicly and nationally, and the humiliation is continued.
Miss Jones, did you ever think that if you didn't go for that extra little setup to pull that last bit of emotion out, that maybe this terrible tragedy which brings us together today wouldn't have occurred?
I don't know what you're talking about.
I have no further questions, Miss Jones.
This isn't the Jenny Jones case. This is the murder of Scott Amedure case. Keep this in mind. If we're talking about whether you should be sympathetic for that defendant for what happened on the Jenny Jones show, think about what he did to Scott Amedure.
I see him standing there with smoke coming out of his chest. Every night. I don't sleep. It's hard, because I expect him there all the time. And I just picture this hole with smoke coming out of him. And it's like living in a movie. It's not really happening.
If you have a secret crush on someone of the same sex and want to do it here on the show and reveal your crush, call us at the show. We'll do this again. The number to call is 312-836-9444.